Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm your host for this episode, Nikki Ivy with Sweetfish Media. And today I have Chris Dayley, Neuromarketer and VP of Testing and Site Optimization for Disruptive Advertising. A mouthful. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great, Nikki. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah. We've got a lot of exciting stuff that I'm ready to get into here with you. But first, I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about your life as a neuromarketer, flesh that out for us a little bit, and what you guys have been up to these days at Disruptive Advertising.
Yeah, so I'm a long-time marketer. I've been in the digital marketing space for about 10 years. And what really started to fascinate me about 6 or 7 years ago was, you bring up the idea of neuromarketing. And what that really is digging beyond just marketing tactics and strategy into the psychology aspect of marketing to figure out what is it that drives people to make decisions online. I mean, we all spend multiple hours per day. I think the average is like 4 hours per day on our phones, online, wherever it is. And so understanding what it is that drives people to make decisions when they are on the internet is so interesting to me. And so, my role at Disruptive is I lead up a division of the company that we basically help businesses explore that idea and figure out what does somebody want to see when they come to your website? What is going to drive the optimal performance and behavior of your site when people come?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is about the psychology. It's super interesting stuff. And you're giving me a break if you're saying that it's 4 hours a day. I'm sure that is a conservative estimate for a girl like me. But let's get into it. Why do businesses struggle to get people to convert in the first place?
Well, I'll tell you a couple reasons that I see almost every day. The first biggest reason is we all think that we know what people want to see. It's funny. I was watching this documentary on Netflix the other day about people that were fixing up their homes to be an Airbnb. And they hire these consultants to come in, and the consultants come in and say, hey, you need to, change your couch and put a rug here, whatever. I mean, they're helping them decorate their house to be a good Airbnb. And this one guy kept saying, but I don't like that. Like, I don't want a blue couch in my living room. And the consultants kept having to say over and over, but this isn't for you. You're designing your house for other people, right? And so that's one of the biggest struggles that we have when it comes to our website is that we're all looking at a website through our own eyes. We're thinking about, what do I like when I'm browsing the web? What are my favorite websites? What kind of images do I like? And the problem is you're not your target audience. And even if you are your target audience, because you are the business, it's almost impossible to really think about things through your users and your potential customers' eyes. So the biggest initial hurdle that most businesses have is they think they know what people want. So a lot of times I'll have conversations with business owners or with marketers, and I'll say, why did you put this on your website? So you are a SaaS company. You've got this video on your homepage. Why did you put that video on there? And they go, well, we have a really complicated product and people need this video in order to understand our product.
Right.
And so then, of course, my next question is, really? Do they need the video or do they need information? And how much information do they need? Do you know that? Or do you think you know? Right? Because if I was to ask any business, what are you offering? You could tell me what you offer. But if I asked, okay, out of all those things that you're offering, what is the one thing that really is going to strike a chord with people? Either you don't know with data, or you're just going to guess, or you're going to say, well, I've talked to like 5 of my customers and they said this, so that's what I have. But again, I mean, most of the information that we're basing our assumptions on when we're designing a website are just a very, very small amount of information, if any information at all. And so when I start working with companies, the biggest hurdle that we have to overcome is being willing to let go of that stuff you think you know. Even if you've done customer profiling and had all these conversations, gotten feedback and focus groups, you still have to be willing to put all these ideas to the test and challenge your assumptions and let your audience ultimately tell you what they want by the data.
So that's one of the things I learned about you in getting excited to have this conversation is that in addition to being a neuromarketer, you're an A/B tester. And I think you're right. I think that is so important to have, a data-driven why for these kinds of decisions. And so my next question is, when you're having these conversations, I'm sure you encounter folks who are like, this isn't working. And without, like you spoke to, without having any data, they're like, we're just going to do a whole redesign of the website. Let's just throw this thing away and do this whole other fun thing that I'm excited about. Are you a proponent of overhauls and redesigns? And, what should folks think about before they decide to do that?
Yeah. I'll first tell you why most companies redesign. There's a few reasons why most companies redesign. The first reason is you get tired of your website. It's just like you're bored with your own website. And it's like, I hate this. I don't like the design. We need to just completely redesign it. Right? That's not a good reason to redesign just because you are tired of it, because maybe your audience isn't. But again, it's about getting out of your own self. So it's not a good idea to redesign because you don't like the design, right? The second reason that a lot of companies will redesign is something has changed about your company. You've changed your product, you've added products, you've changed your branding, right? And those kinds of things almost necessitate a redesign. You almost have to redesign your site in that case because it's like, well, we don't even have half of our products on here or half of our services, right? And so in that case, it's not a bad idea to redesign if you do it the right way. And so we'll come back to what is the right way. The last reason that a lot of companies will redesign is you get a new marketing person in, or you hire a consultant, and that's just kind of an easy go-to to say, you know what, all of this stuff is just kind of mediocre. Our conversion rates are mediocre. Our ad campaigns are mediocre. Let's just scrap it all and start from scratch. And that's also not a great reason to redesign because it's not really based on data. Like, okay, yes, maybe everything's not crushing it, but you have some things that are working. And if you just start from scratch, you have just as much of a chance of things sucking as you did before.
For sure. And so that's kind of the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about. So the alternative, I guess, to redesigning would be optimizing. And what I was wanting to hear from you is, the top 2 or 3 things you look for when you're helping businesses optimize their websites.
Yeah. So, and that kind of goes into the process of when you are thinking about a redesign or when you're thinking about optimizing, the first thing that's important to do is when you look at each page of your website, if you are an e-commerce business and you're selling products, you need to understand what is the purpose of each page on my site. Because usually when I'll go to like a home page, whether it's a SaaS company or a law firm or an e-commerce business, I'll usually go to the homepage and I'll say, okay, what is the purpose of your homepage? And almost always the answer is to sell my product or, to get somebody to sign up. And my response is always, no, it's not. That's not what your homepage is for. Your homepage is to spark interest and to lead people deeper into your site, right? It's a very rare case where you actually convert somebody on your homepage. Right? If you are selling a product, you typically take them to a product page and then they buy, or to a category page and then they buy. If you are a law firm, you're going to send them to a page that is specific to the type of legal help that they need. If you are a SaaS business, you're going to send them to a page that is specific to their pain points, right? And so first you need to understand what is the objective of each page. Like, what is the thing I'm trying to get people to do? So I'm trying to get them to click into my site, or I'm trying to get them to call me or whatever.
Right.
Then the second thing that you need to do is you need to ask the question, what are the value propositions? What is the information that people need in order to take that action? Right. And it's almost a misleading question in a lot of cases, because usually when I say, what's the information that people need in order to click on your button or go view your product, people immediately start answering that question. And they go,
right.
oh, well, they need to know that we do this, and they need to know our pricing, and they need to know. And it's like, back up. You need to ask the question, what information do people need? Right. Because you think you know everything that your audience needs, but you don't. A lot of times, like if you are selling stuffed animals online, you're going to have a lot of different value propositions. The material that it's made out of, the quality, the return policy, the price, the reviews, the money back guarantee, whatever. There's going to be a lot of different things you could say about the product. And of course, those are all great things. But usually there's one or two things that really matter to the audience that is the most important. It might be the price. It might be the quality. It might be the fact that it's made in the United States or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you need to go in with a question in mind about what that is. And so, okay, I know what the purpose of my page is. My homepage is to get people deeper into the site. Mm-hmm. The action that I want them to take is I want them to click on this button that takes them to a product page. And now I'm going to figure out what information do they need in order to take that action. And so now is where I can start experimenting and testing. Let's create one version of our homepage where we are focused on the quality of our product and service. And then let's create another version of our page where we are focused on like the features, all the stuff that is included with our service or our product. Mm-hmm. Right. And then maybe we have another one that's focused on reviews or like the experience. And then we can test all those against each other. And now we start to actually learn. Start to get some really good insights about our audience, because we're going to have these different variations that focus on different aspects of our business. And whichever one works best is the thing that people care about the most. Whichever one works the worst, performs the worst, we know is not important to our audience. And so we really need to stop focusing attention on that. And so, you can kind of see where this goes. Yeah.
I bet a bunch of people are completely shocked at the gap, the difference that there is between what they thought would be important to people, but once tested, ends up what's actually important to people. And that's that psychology piece that we were talking about in the beginning, in terms of understanding the things that influence the website audience behavior. And you kind of touched on them just now when it comes to just this in a broad sense, knowing what information they need to take an action. Any other notes on, what are the things specifically that influence website audience behavior in general?
So the last thing, and this is, so I would say I've run over 1,000 tests, A/B tests in my career. And, I've worked with hundreds of different types of businesses, and every single business that I have worked with, without fail, has at least one thing on every page of their site that is hurting conversion rates. So the other thing you need to be really aware of is it's really easy to distract people or to throw somebody something that is not actually going to help them to convert. So anytime I tell people, I can promise you have at least one thing on every page of your site that's hurting conversion rates, that usually starts the wheels turning, and you go, well, what is it? Like, what's the thing on my homepage? What's the thing on my, on my service page when I'm talking about the service that my business offers? What's the thing? Is it going to be my video? Is that actually hurting my conversion rates? Is it going to be that I have too much information? Is it going to be my stupid social media icons that I thought I had to put on there for some reason? Like, is it going to be the image that I have of our CEO? Like, why do we even have a picture of our CEO on this page? Right? Like, all of these kinds of things, I see these frequently being distracting to our audiences, mostly because they're usually not adding value or adding some kind of benefit, or we're trying to cram too much value and too much benefits down their throat. So that's the last thing you need to be really careful of is distracting your audience from the purpose and the goal of your page.
I know exactly of which you speak. So in my time as a B2B salesperson, I at one point sold to lawyers, another point sold to realtors, and then to construction business owners. And to your point about, pictures of their team, or there was one guy who had a video on one of the construction business owners, just a video of him like doing drywall. And it's like, fam, I don't know that this is what you really, because people come here already knowing that you do drywall, but it was my job to tell them that. I wasn't working on their websites at all, but I've encountered folks where it's like, it'd be better if you had no website at all. It's God's work you're doing out here. On that note, you've put out some really actionable, clear, sort of succinct things that people can look for as they think about optimizing their websites. Any sort of parting wisdom as far as how to get that traffic to convert that we haven't already touched on?
Yeah, so I actually put together a starter guide for A/B testing. If it's something that you've never done before, you need to try A/B testing because it's the only way to practice what we've been discussing today. And so in the starter guide, I have things like what tools you can use to easily test your website. What are some of the simplest tests to run to get the maximum impact? Other types of things that you should be aware of as you start doing A/B tests on your site. And so I would definitely refer people to that. And you can download that starter guide by going to disruptiveadvertising.com/guide. And that is a free download.
Perfect. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of folks hitting that up because this is important stuff. Other than that, how can if folks want to follow along with you and your content and sort of keep up with you or connect with you, how can folks do that?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. On Twitter, I'm just at Chris Dayley. My last name is Dayley. And then, of course, you can always check out disruptiveadvertising.com. And there's lots of blog posts that we've written on there about A/B testing and lots of information that people can use to get started or to take their game to the next level.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This has been super helpful. And I'll speak to you soon, man.
Okay, thank you.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.